Hello, happy believers. This painting reminds me of the prodigal son. This painting is called Going Home. The contrast so evident between the little mermaid and the elephant. The closeness and peace they developed is evident as she holds on to the elephant's trunk, as he leads her to where she truly belongs, in the sea, her true home. Yet she clings on, enjoying the bond that developed between them before she says her last goodbye and lets go. They instinctively know where home is, and both need to return to their home, to their rightful place, to feel a sense of belonging, security and peace. The little mermaid, getting lost on the way, needs help, and the elephant helps her, carrying her on his trunk, pointing her in the right direction, and leading her into the sea, bringing her home before he can return to his home on land. The prodigal son is also about going home, as we read in Luke chapter 15 verses 11 to 32, as follows. Then Jesus said, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger son said to him, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. After a few days, the younger son got everything together and journeyed to a distant country, where he squandered his wealth in wild living." Reflection. The younger son asks his father for his share of his inheritance, as he wants to travel and experience life. He must have been bored and felt restricted in his life and wanted excitement. Without hesitation, his father gives him the money and does not prevent him from leaving his home. But once he arrived in the distant country, he did everything he ever dreamed of, without thinking about managing his money. He lived recklessly. Eventually, his money ran out. Reading on. After he had spent all he had, a severe famine swept through that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his belly with the pods the pigs were eating, but no one would give him a thing. Reflection. The son never thought of anything while things were going well. It was only when he hit on hard times and had spent all his money that he stopped and thought of the dire situation that he gotten himself into. He ended up working in a job that could not sustain him. He was so hungry, he longed to eat the pods the pigs were eating. He ended up worse off than the pigs. No one would help him. Reading on. Finally, he came to his senses and said, "How many of my father's hired servants have plenty of food? But here I am, starving to death. I will get up and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.'" Reflection. When his hunger became unbearable, it was only then that he thought his father's servants were better off than him. Even though they were servants, they were treated well and had everything they needed. And here he was, starving to death. Then he started rehearsing what he would say to his father to get on good terms with him again. He thought, I will work as one of his servants, thinking, yes, that might work. But he was still only thinking of himself, as the idea of being a servant and being well fed compared to where he was, now starving to death, sounded like a luxurious life. Reading on. So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still in the distance, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him and kissed him. The son declared, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let us feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So they began to celebrate. Reflection. So he got up and went to his father. In making the decision to turn around his life, it was only then that he experienced something that surpassed all his wildest dreams. He did not even have to go and knock at the door. His father was sitting waiting for him and had only compassion for him. He ran to his son, embraced him and kissed him. Then he treated him like a prince, giving him the best robe, a ring and sandals, and arranged a feast in his name. This son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. This shows the unconditional love of his father. He was not asked to explain himself. He did not get a lecture. The son was forgiven on the spot. Instant forgiveness. Even the best robe was there waiting for him. Then there is mention of his other son. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field, and as he approached the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked what was going on. "Your brother has returned," he said, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." The older son became angry and refused to go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I have served you and never disobeyed a commandment of yours. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours returns from squandering your wealth with prostitutes, you kill the fattened calf for him." "Son, you are always with me," the father said, "and all that is mine is yours. But it was fitting to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." Reflection. The older son had a very human reaction to the return of his brother. And if we were in the same situation, we would probably have felt the same. But God always tries to open and stretch our minds, as our thinking can be so limited. What is interesting here is that God is so forgiving and generous. Yet again, we can have difficulty with that forgiveness and generosity God has towards another. We can make it about ourselves, so self-pity comes into play. It is unfair, and we become the victim. But God says, no, that is not how to look at it. We must also turn our thinking around to be able to celebrate and be glad because another person was dead spiritually and is alive again. He was lost and is found. In Luke chapter 15, verse 10, it says, "In the same way, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of God's angels over one sinner who repents." It does not mention if the other son attends the party or stays outside. But even for us to enter, what is needed is forgiveness, generosity, acceptance, being able to rejoice for another, and most of all, applying unconditional love. Jesus, coming to us on Christmas Day, brings all the graces we need to live His way. All we need do is just like the prodigal son, return and ask. Please like, subscribe and share so we can all live our wonderful Catholic faith together in all its richness. Next painting very, very soon. Watch this space. Until then, remember, choose Jesus, choose freedom.